Tides. Depending on where the moon is depending where you are, you can find out what a high tide is. And high tides these days in Miami, even low tide in Miami, the days you can get water in the streets. And figuring out a high tide and then possibly a storm surge, you can have 12 feet of water sitting in the street. In Miami, your house better be a houseboat, or you'll be in trouble. And around the world, they're finding the same thing. High tides are washing away land, or inundating land, or what was used to be a swamp is now a saltwater marsh. Trees have died all along the coast. Islands are dying, and they say, well, high tide, the water comes into the land and soaks the land with salt. And maybe they're a foot above it. And if you want to know what high tide is, go to Houston, which is 2 feet above sea level, or something like that, 3 feet above sea level. And when it rains in Houston, everything gets wet. And when high tide comes in, everything gets wet. It takes longer for the place to drain. Wow. And they say, well, if you live in Houston, you got a river there. The river is overflowing. And when high tide comes in, or even low tide coming in, you've got the river backs up. And right now it's overflowing its banks. And all countries around the world are finding out what high tide really means. It's high all the time. The low tide is now the high tide, and the high tide is going to be a super high tide. Oh God, have we screwed ourselves up? Yeah, well, why? Too many people.